Hi, Julia.
I'm
Thank you so much for
good. Thanks
joining
for
us today. How
having
are you?
me.
So glad. Well, hello to everyone who has tuned in. I'm Annalie with Broadway in Chicago. I'm joined by Julia Knitel, incredibly talented actress and Come From Away. We're here to chat about all things Come From Away and tour life. If you have any questions for Julia, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible. But first, we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire just to
Love
get
it.
to know
I'm
you
in.
a little
Let's
bit, if
go.
that sounds good to you. All right,
Oh, I
what
have a
is your
gluten
favorite
and
dessert?
a dairy allergy, so that's kind of hard. I've been to
No.
pavlova recently, which is weird, but pavlova.
That sounds good. What is your current favorite album
Oh,
slash
baby.
artist you're listening to these days?
Lucy Dacus home video. I can't get. If you haven't listened,
Ah,
it's perfect from start to finish, and she's got this way of like poking you in the heart and sometimes making you cry, but also making you feel good.
I'll have to add that to my list for sure. What is your current favorite
Oh,
TV show, if you have
it's
one
a
these
little
days?
tough touring. I kind of find that I just end up spending time with the people I'm living with after the show instead of watching TV. But I'm obviously like super into Succession. I'm really into God, yeah, that's all that's coming to mind. I've been terrible doing more reading. Yeah,
What
I've
are
been
some of your favorite
revisiting
books these
The
days?
Time Traveler's Wife, which I read as like a high schooler and takes place in Chicago. And so this is my first trip to Chicago, and I've read this book like over and over throughout my life at different periods, but like coming to the city and seeing like, the Field Museum and the Art Institute, which are all locations in the book that I've loved for many years, has been really cool.
Well, okay,
Thanks.
well then first, welcome to Chicago. What has been your
I am
favorite
in
thing
love
so
with
far
Chicago.
about
I
the
never want
city?
to leave. It feels home is New York for me, and so Chicago really feels like
Mm.
New York in many ways. It's a proper city. It's got a public transit system. I've just fallen really in love. I'm staying in the Lakeview area, which is really cool, like suburb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the audiences here have been unreal. Everybody's been warm. Everybody's so kind. We've got some real pros as our backstage help. The locals that we hire are kick ass. And I went to the Art Institute on my day off and spent the whole day there. I was like, this is the coolest museum I've ever been to. So Chicago rocks.
Well, that is just a surefire sign that you'll have to come back
Have me,
soon.
please.
Absolutely. What was the last show that you saw that
Oh,
wasn't Come From Away?
actually, it's kind of crazy. I think well, two things. I'm seeing my second show since before the shutdown and before I started Come From Away. Today, I'm seeing Hadestown, which I'm so excited for. But actually, my show back since I started Come From Away, since the shutdown, so like maybe 3 or 4 years, was my husband making his Broadway debut in the Book of Mormon.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it
so
was
exciting.
really
Oh my
insane. And
goodness.
like I actually didn't even think of the fact that I was sitting down in a theater for the first time in so long. And then it was my husband on a Broadway. So it was really magical.
Oh, that's incredible. What was the first show you were ever in? It doesn't
Ooh.
have to be
Well,
professional.
I was in the womb in my first show, I believe. My mom was playing Maria in The Sound of Music, and she was a pregnant nun. But once I was out of utero, I was 4 years old, I think. I did a production of Showboat. Actually, weirdly, was professional, and like they couldn't find a kid who wasn't in could play the young Kim, and they were like, "She's tall. We'll take this for you." So I got to do that, which was cool.
Oh, wow. Well, then I want to start at the very beginning of what sparked your love for acting. Was it the showboat experience, or was it something later on that led you
Yeah,
to want to
great
become a
question.
professional actress?
I grew up in an arts family. All my aunts and uncles, my cousins, my sister, we're all in the arts now to this day, which is really cool. My cousin's a casting director, my sister's a dresser on Broadway and at the Met, and so we really have it in our community. And I grew up in my parents' community theater in New Jersey, and so we were always just doing shows for the love of it, doing shows for the community and the that sense of accomplishment without any money, you know, like community theater is where it's at because you really learn to love this crazy magical beast that is theater. But I was fortunate enough to kind of I always knew I wanted to do it professionally, and I also knew coming from an arts family how difficult it is, and how many people don't get to make a life in the theater just because it's, you know, very competitive. And so I had very realistic expectations of what my life could be, and was very, very fortunate in the way that things have turned out. I made my Broadway debut at 16. I went to my first ever professional audition outside of Showboat. I went to my first ever professional audition, and it was open call, and I did not think it was going to happen. I was just kind of there for the experience and like eating pancakes on 40th Street with my dad. And I'm like, was like, this is going to be, you know, this will be what it is. And I ended up booking it, and it kind of changed my life. And since then, I've been really, really lucky to get to work in this field.
That's incredible. Thinking back, what type of advice would you give yourself professionally? And just speaking to all the other fellow actors out there who are early in their careers, do you
My
have a
number
piece
one
of
piece of
advice?
advice is always be nice to people. Be nice to them if they have all the power in the world, and be nice to them if they have none. Like, just when you encounter people on stage, off stage, backstage, in your regular life, just be kind, because people remember that. And 90% of the work that I get is from a referral from a friend or I had already worked with, who said, you know, I may not be the perfect person for this role. I may not be the one who can belt the highest or cry on cue the best, you know, like, but I think, and I've been told, that I can bring something to a rehearsal room or to, you know, an 8-show week run that can keep spirits light and can make things fun, and try to, it's about enjoying how lucky you are to get to do this professionally or not professionally. Do this in your community theater too, but just be kind, and find moments for joy and take the stress away. Don't make the stakes too high. And that's my second piece of advice, for like a literal piece of career advice. You cannot stress. If you go every audition like, this is the one that matters, this is the one that will change my life. And I know that's difficult with like college auditions, of course, because you really only do have, you know, a couple chances. Try to just relax and try to just go in there and be your best self, whether it's in an audition or on stage. Just be collected and enjoy it.
That's so perfect. All right, I want to talk about Come From Away. First of all, what made you say yes to this role and to the show?
I actually got this job. I got this audition as a referral. Like I was just saying, I worked with someone, our associate director, and he was like, I think you'd be great as Janice. Do you want to come in for it? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I'd never seen the show. I hilariously wore Janice's costume basically to my audition and looked around and was like, is everyone in a white button down and jeans? This is my look. Why they're stealing it. But I had a great audition and I felt really good, and I was like, if it doesn't go further, it's all good. It did. I ended up getting the offer, and was sometimes when you haven't seen a show and they offer you a role, they'll be like, go see the show tonight. Let us know what you think. When I did that, and so I went over to the theater in New York, and I sat down and I wept for 100 minutes. And I was like, I'm so glad I didn't see this show before I auditioned. I would have been so much more nervous, and I would have really wanted it. And so I immediately said yes. I think I didn't know at the time what the world would be going through while I was still a part of telling this story. But I even then was like, it's human kindness. It's coming together. It's taking care of your fellow person. And it's a story that I can get behind every night, and that I can feel people being touched by, whether it was in the audience on that first night or being on stage every night. You can feel that people connect with this story. And that is like such a gift.
Mm, absolutely. I want to talk about specifically your role as Janice and others as well. First of all, a lot of people are curious about the accents that you use. Talk to me a little bit about the preparation you did for this role and what's it like
We have a
working with these
brilliant
accents.
dialect coach whose name is Joel Goldies, and he's like world renowned, works with like mega celebrities on enormous movies and things. Like he's no joke, and he is also the kindest, most wonderful man. And he basically for the audition sends you like I had to do a Texas accent, which I learned is very different than other Southern accents. It's very specific. It's just cool. But then also the Gander accent. So he sends you like little clips of examples of words, and then you just kind of fumble through it and do your best in the audition, which I'm sure helps them, gives the creative team like an idea of your ability with accents. And then once you get the job, we do like an entire day of dialect work where you work through all the accents. Some people have just like one line with a French accent, and then like it goes away, but you have to have a perfect French accent for that one line. So we work very hard on it. And then weirdly, once you kind of get in the flow of things, I find that what I'm wearing helps me dictate what I'm speaking as. Because like Janice is just, if I've got the microphone, I'm speaking with the Gander accent. But then if I'm wearing like the flight attendant hat and the jacket, I'm like, oh yeah, she's a Southern girl.
No, I could definitely tell that one, you all in the cast have worked incredibly hard, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. When you're watching the show, you can really tell like, oh, I'm seeing on stage right now someone from Gander. Oh, right now they're playing someone else, and it's so smooth. And cohesive. And I think that just speaks to the way that you as a cast just work together so well. We have a question about what is it like being on tour and working with
Yeah, I
these
mean,
incredible
I
other
love
actors.
tour. I think it always feels like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I've been lucky enough to do it twice. This is my second tour. But it's a unique experience because in New York, when you're doing a Broadway show or when you're doing an off-Broadway show or whatever, you go to work and then you come home and have your own friends and your own family
Mm.
and your own apartment and your own life, really. And work is a part of that. And if you're lucky enough, you get wonderful casts that become your family as well. But that's not always the case. And on tour, you live, you work, you eat, you sleep, you everybody's together all the time, whether it's in the hotel lobby or, I live with Sharon, who plays Bonnie. We live together in almost every city, and we've become a little family. We travel together with her husband and her baby, and we we all spend all of it together. And you know it, it really, I think for this show especially, does create a very very tight ensemble cast. We love each other, we connect with each other before the show. Before we start, we have a little roundup where I'll actually see if I can try to get a video of it. It's pretty cute. I'll send it your way and you guys can share it. But we round up and we like make sure we connect with each other before we go out and tell the story. And there's one other moment that actually somebody at the stage door asked me about. He's like, "What are you all doing when Nick and Diane are singing Stop the World?" And I was like, "Oh, we're all talking about what we want to do for dinner." Like we all literally come together in this one moment where we're off stage. We could just be like, drinking our water and like taking a moment, but we all come together and we like mess around and we do like a little dance break to the drums. And I hope that it comes across on stage that we all really do love each other.
That's incredible. Speaking of your cast members, you have
Oh,
a question from a fellow cast member. Are Nick Duckard's forearms really
hi,
that
Nick.
hairy?
Yes, they are. What's remarkable about Nick's forearms is that the hair stops right here, hairless, naked mole rat. Yeah, the rumor's true.
You heard it here first, everyone. That's incredible. Well, we are nearing the end of our time, but one last question. The story of Come From Away is so incredibly timely, even for now, even though it took place, back in 2001. What do you want people to take away after seeing the
Great
show?
question. I hope that, like, I think that the story of Come From Away is very uniquely Newfoundland. Like this is how these people operate in daily life. You know, they are very much giving and caring, and I think we all hope that we would respond that way, urgency, but you never know until, you know, it's really happening. And I think what I hope people can learn from watching this very true story is their own capacity for that kind of care and love. And that maybe just because they saw this, if there is an emergency, if there is a time where they're faced with that kind of opportunity, that they too can kind of harness that Newfoundland energy and be really kind to their fellow man, woman, person, and maybe go above and beyond. And whether it's in a big moment or in a small moment, you know, I'm always amazed when I'm pulling out of a parking garage with people who just saw the show, and like how many times people will be like, no, you first. That's a moment that I think they've been ever so slightly changed, you know. And I hope that it positively impacts them, because it positively impacts me every night to get to tell it.
I can't think of a better way to wrap this up. Julia, thank you so much for sharing your time and talents with us. We're so grateful. Everyone, you definitely want to see Come From Away. It's truly a show you won't want to miss. 100 minutes, Cadillac Palace Theater. It's playing here only through March 6th, which is this Sunday. Get your tickets, broadwayinchicago.com. Julia, thank you so much again. Everyone, have a great rest of your week.